decommissioning costs as well. And who assures the safety of power plants? The current Japanese incident is an example. What happens, supposing, say, I don't know, somebody said the site has already been chosen, and he wouldn't tell me which the site was. But the guess is it is among 3 states, Johor, Pahang, and Terengganu, right? And they have to be near the sea, because you need, look at the Japanese, they need the water for cooling, unless you put in Putrajaya and use Putrajaya later. That's what some people suggested. But I don't know whether there will be enough water from Putrajaya Lake to cool the reactor, depending what size the reactor is. And then we have almost very little direct experience of running reactors. We have research reactor experience, but not of a full-scale reactor. Next, please. So, what has been happening for all the way from the existing 1 megawatt research reactor? I was told at the forum that very little waste, but it is still kept on site. Imagine if what 1 megawatt research reactor. We are talking of 2,000 megawatt reactors now. And what have been the radiation levels in Bukit Merah, thorium oxide storage site, or even the research reactor? And now, of course, you hear about the new plant coming up in Gebeng, in Kuantan, who claims that the radioactive level is low. And I thought today there was a statement by the minister, I think answering the question in Parliament, saying we have done everything. Nobody said, you take the vote. I remember Mahathir saying when we were fighting against Bukit Merah, oh, it's so safe. You're so stupid to take the waste and rub it over your body. And he was a medical doctor saying that. And Law Handling at that time Minister of Environment said, oh, the trenches are well built. Until I went to the place. And I said, I'm not a civil engineer, but even as an electrical engineer, I would not let my brain be built that way. Such is the disconnect between the policy makers and what is happening at ground level. So much so, I for one will not accept their word. Because what they say there is not necessarily what is happening in the ground. And then the expenditure in constructing and opening a research reactor. Of course, today I have not seen the figures. Maybe MPs can ask a question and find out how much money was spent on this Puspati reactor that we have had so far, and how much radioactive isotopes has it produced, cost-benefit analysis. Has it been there? And the actual experience of Malaysian engineers and scientists of operating nuclear power reactors. Next, please. And then the question is, why go nuclear? Why energy efficiency has not been optimized in the electrical sector? And I keep on saying that because I've been saying that for about 20 years actually. Because all you have to do is, today's air conditioning here is quite okay, but you go to most hotels, I have this strange story. I was sitting many years ago in a hotel which I will not name, somewhere near PWDC, and next to me was a Finnish lady, and she asked me, excuse me, why is it so cold? She was from Finland, complaining about air conditioning in the tropics. And then recently, a friend of ours had a visitor from Europe who stayed in the air-conditioned hotel, was driven in an air-conditioned car, attended meetings with air-conditioned officers, and he sent an email back home. The weather in Malaysia is very nice. It's just like autumn. That's how we air condition. That's how we waste our energy. Air conditioning is a prime example of wastage of energy in government buildings, in commercial buildings, and even in houses. Right? So, and then the other question is, will the future of uranium and reactor construction costs have not been fully disclosed? Because you must realize, not very many companies can build reactors. There are a limited number of reactor companies. One of them is a Japanese company, 2 of them are Americans, and I think 2 of them are French. Maybe not more than 10. If all these reactors being planned, you think they can cope with the jobs? You notice that in Finland, the French company that got the contract has now had to ask for an extension of the job and the cost overrun. But luckily when I mentioned that to the Finnish chap, he said, don't worry, we are protected. The contract is any cost overrun they have to bear their own. Not like Akamudawan, I don't know whether MRT, whether that will happen or not, but in the case of Finland, they made sure the French company had to pay for all the cost overruns. And the cost overrun is only 50%. So it's not a going thing. If you're a reactor fellow, you don't want to go and write such a contract, you will end up losing money. And then my argument is, we have not used, you see, I want to comment on solar. pardon me by me saying, I'm getting very annoyed when people say we produce so many solar panels. What's the use? Because they are not allowed to sell the panels to Malaysians. What difference does it make if you are the world's biggest solar PV and the condition is to export all? That's the condition my guys put. I just found out when I was arguing with government officials. I said, why can't we get solar panels built? We've got so many companies. Why are they not so? I asked one of the manufacturers last year at the exhibition, Green Technology Exhibition. He said, oh, nobody wants to buy. But when I checked around, apparently there's a condition from MIDA that you are allowed to build solar panels, photovoltaic panels, all for export. So if Malaysian is buying a panel, you buy a made in Malaysia panel, is going to a foreign country and freight back, and you pay the extra cost. So what's the advantage to Malaysia? I ask you, what is the advantage? How many jobs does it create? We get them tax breaks and all this sort of thing. What? Not for our benefit. So you start, don't tell me about solar manufacturing in Malaysia. It's of no bloody use to Malaysians. It's only to somebody pocketing money from them. Biomass has a potential. But I just spoke to a biomass conference a couple of days ago, and I raised the question again. Most of the biomass we are going to palm oil to produce biodiesel, which is very stupid because you're using food element. If we use agro waste, we have, but we mustn't assume that all the waste in the palm oil industry can be used for energy, because it will be used for other purposes. It's got other byproduct values. So many of these people who come with CDM projects and sit on the National CDM Committee, I keep asking them the question, are you sure you can get all these empty fruit branches for the next 20 years? In fact, if you don't have your own mill, you have to buy on the open market. The prices of EFB are going up now. And in Peninsular Malaysia, because the palm oil acreage is going to shrink, it has to shrink because the land in Peninsular Malaysia is limited. We are urbanizing, and what do you urbanize? At the expense of estates. The only place you expand is Sabah and Sarawak. So you make a lot of wrong assumptions when you go gung-ho on biomass also. So you have to be realistic. They alone, but we need a mixture of solar, biomass, and ocean thermal. I've just been looking at exchanges with Dr. Abu Bakar, who keeps on arguing that they have discovered the Sabah Trench of Kota Kinabalu, which is deep enough to allow ocean thermal energy conversion to occur. And it's a potential of 50,000 megawatts. 50,000 megawatts as against 2,000 megawatts of nuclear reactor. And to me, the cost of developing that will almost be the same as the money you spend on the 2 nuclear reactors. Nobody has challenged me on that. They say, oh, we have to work. You still work. You don't wait until you're 20 years from now. The potential is there, and that's renewable. That's renewable. There's no carbon. In fact, you can even use that energy, even if you don't want to convert it to electricity, produce metal hydrides, and use the metal hydrides later on for energy purposes and all. Because there may be a problem of transmitting the electricity if it's too far out by undersea cable and all that sort of thing. But the potential is there. But have we funding it? Mostly. How much money is mostly spending? I look at a little bit of exchange of news over the internet. It seems to be very little fun. The fellow, one chap is working on it, says my budget is very limited. I can only do this part of the work. So why don't we transfer the entire money meant for the nuclear reactors into ocean thermal? And it will solve Sabah's problem. Sabah will become an energy exporter for renewable energy, right? Although Peninsula may not benefit so much, but they can always give you some metal hydrides to bring over and use them. And what is missing in our country is we don't have a sustainable energy policy. You know, the policy that we have, they keep on referring to, is an electricity generating policy. You challenge that. And the Ministry of Energy is actually Ministry of Electricity. Although now, they seem to have found that the minister has power over all forms of energy. That's why they're bringing transport in. But the energy policy doesn't cover that. Because oil and gas is under the depletion, national depletion policy. I get a signal to shut up. Okay, next, I think I'll finish the next one. So the question is, who decides on a national policy? On the role of different energy sources? On the cost and siting of a nuclear reactor? To label nuclear technology as green, as Ron mentioned just now, who is a minister to call it green? Who decides to subject Malaysian public to a nuclear nightmare? On an ASEAN becoming a nuclear zone, because we talk of nuclear weapons free zone, remember? But we want to make it a nuclear zone by generating nuclear power in every ASEAN country. On the bidding for the reactor and construction, and at what stage will the public have a say? One more. I think that's it. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.